Welcome to the Cup of Joe Show, where we explore the journey of recovery from alcohol and drug addiction. One story, one conversation, and one step at a time. I'm your host, Joe, creating a safe space for honest discussions about the challenges and triumphs of addiction and alcoholism. In each episode, we'll hear inspiring stories and uncover tools that make healing possible. Sobriety is not a one-size-fits-all journey, and you don't have to face it alone. Recovery is possible, and it's worth it. Thank you for joining the Cup of Joe Show. Now let's get started. Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for joining the show today. I'm really excited to have my guest today. We're going to talk to John W. Known John quite a while and really admire his sobriety. And so let me read a little bit about John, and then we'll get talking to him. John W. has been living in sobriety since August 16th, 1987. That's more than 37 years, one day at a time. Amazing. A dedicated member of the Friday night group, he sponsors many men on their recovery journey. John is a proud father of two, grandfather of two grandsons, and has been blessed with many grandchildren. A Chicago native, shout out to my bonus daughter, who now calls that home. He is also an Army veteran who honorably served in Vietnam. Thank you for your service, John. He's a passionate fisherman and a true fisher of men. John also enjoys kayaking, road trips, and cherishes times with friends, who he says are his entertainment these days. So, how you doing today, John?
Joe, I'm doing great.
I really appreciate you coming to share your experience, strength, and hope. And so just to get into it, tell us a little bit about your upbringing.
Well, I go back a few years here, but I can recall Chicago still very vividly. I think I still can remember the street grids. I don't think I could get lost, to be honest with you. It's just one of those places that you never forget. It's a great place to be from. I'm just glad I don't live there anymore. That's all.
Yeah, I hear you.
Anyway, growing up was, in the 50s and 60s. And I didn't leave Chicago until I was in my 30s. So spent a lot of years there. But growing up was pretty cool, I thought. I mean, lived in Chicago, anybody who grew up in the times in Chicago, and probably it's still this way today, it's a very ethnic neighborhood. You've got different ethnicities in certain parts of town. And a lot of times there's a blend of more than one ethnicity.
Yeah.
So I was born and raised in the Humboldt Park area, which is about right in the heart of Chicago, Sound Loop area. And we had just a multicultural melting pot type of neighborhood. So my parents were hardworking people. They both were employed. At the time I had 5 siblings, and we all lived. And you're from New York, I think. And we all lived in a flat, which was just a little 3-bedroom flat. So I had 4 sisters, and growing up until I was somewhere around 9 or 10, we lived in this house all together, slept in the same bedrooms and all. And of course, after you get a certain time in your life, it's time to move on. And my mom forced my dad to move out of the neighborhood. And it caused World War II. I'll tell you that over again. No, my dad didn't want to leave. My grandmother lived upstairs from us. And, anyway, we did eventually move to another neighborhood on the west side of Chicago, the West Side. And it was a lot more roomier, and we had a lot more neighborhood interaction with the neighbors and all. But growing up, I thought was pretty cool. The snow in the winter, and the running around and riding bikes in the summer, and staying out and playing till after dark.
Yeah.
If it wasn't a school night, if it was summer, we were outside. I mean, all year round, it seemed like. But I
Sounds
didn't
like a
know
pretty
any.
good way to grow up.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, it wasn't you know um, Leave It to Beaverville, but it was everybody was pretty friendly with the neighbors, and everybody knew one another. We're all kind of watching out for each other too. So
Yeah.
it was pretty cool. So yeah, yeah.
What was
No,
school like, John? Was how was
oh,
school in those days?
oh well, I went to the 8 years of what we called elementary school or parochial school, public school,
Yeah.
and 4 years of high school. My first 8 years, the impressionable years, were I loved school. I mean, I thought it was a great place. We learned how to play baseball and stuff like that. Um, and we all had one little 12-inch TV growing up. I remember that, a black and white TV, and we
Yeah.
all gathered around it, to watch television at night, and that was so cool. It was so
Yeah.
cool. Yeah,
Were
yeah.
you the remote control, John? That
No, we didn't have we didn't have remote control back in the day, Joe.
I always thought as a kid we'd be the remote control. My mom would say, "Go change the channel," and I'd get up, and so I was actually the remote control.
Yeah, yeah. My dad wouldn't let us touch the TV. You
I
had to
get
hit
it.
it on the side, whack the antenna around a little bit, slap it around. So he would do the whole channel changing and all of that. Don't touch that TV. We had to
What?
lower it before changing channels. I can't believe it.
That's
And
amazing, isn't it? The
yeah.
what? How old were you when you took your first drink, John?
Well, okay, I can't nail it down to an exact age, but it was very, very young. And I was introduced to it through my family. My mother was Italian, okay, so to speak, and they have a lot of wine with the meals, okay.
Yeah.
And dad and my grandmother were from Poland, and they also liked to partake in alcohol at meals and things like that. So when I was about maybe eight, maybe maybe even younger, table wine was served. I didn't much care for it. I thought it was sort of bitter. But then again, it started tasting better and better as if you ate a lot of food and kind of washed it down with that wine. It kind of tasted pretty good, really. Um, that's about the first I can remember. About 8, 7, 8 or 9, and then there were
Okay.
holidays too, where Grandma would have us come upstairs and like maybe Christmas or days like that, and she would have a little toast for me,
Yeah.
which was not wine; it was hard liquor. I don't know if it was homemade vodka or if it was what it was, but it sure was strong. I remember that. She'd just try this, and she'd speak to me in Polish. And I'd say, "Grandma, I don't understand." Busha, we called her. Busha, I don't
Boosh.
understand. That's okay. That's okay. Just drink this. And we would say, at the end, I felt like a man because they would say, Nastrovia. And they would put the shot glass down on the table. And I thought, wow, they're treating me like a man here.
Yeah.
But it was only a little half a shooter or something like that. Never gave it much thought and never had to desire. It was almost like an obligation to do it. So you had to
Okay.
go upstairs and see grandma, get that over.
Yeah.
My mom would have a fit when she found out. What are you doing with him? He's going to grow up to be like you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was there anybody in your family, John, that you know, looking back, may have had a drinking problem or anything like
Yes,
that?
yes. My oldest sister, God rest her soul, but she didn't die from alcoholism. But she was a very, very heavy drinker. She married a man who was too. but they were both quite successful people, and they lived an entire life, raised a wonderful family, and even got into a business practice. And so, yeah, I would say, yeah, they definitely. My sister definitely had a problem with
Yeah.
drinking, but she lived a lifestyle that afforded her to sleep in and get regular vacations and go to health spas and things like that. They went all over the world together. So anyway, I don't look at that and say, "Wow, I could have been a contender," but
Right.
no, yeah, you know, and the sad thing about it is, I do believe it is hereditary because a number of their children have the same problem.
Right.
So I think there's something in the genes there, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what was high school like for you, John?
Oh, high school was not very fun. I'll tell you what happened. Before I graduated into high school, the high school I wanted to go to was where all of my friends were, all of the hoodlum buddies of mine, so to speak, all went to a certain high school, all the guys and gals from the neighborhood, and I was all set to go there. And I never said, my mother said, no, 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 we're going to enroll you in Lane Technical High School, which is a huge high school in Chicago. It still operates, but at the time it was not co-ed. It was only all boys. It was the closest thing in the public school system to a Catholic school, where
Hmm.
all parochial schools were non co-ed. They were all boys and girls separated. And Lane Technical had only the smart kids got to go there. I said, I'm not smart. I'm not smart. I'm not going there with those guys. Well,
Yeah.
you had to pass a certain test. Well, I didn't even know that I had passed, that I was in that category. My mother never told me and said, no, you're being enrolled in Lane. My mother sort of wore the pants in the family, as you can hear, or what I'll tell you about.
Yeah.
Anyway, I went to that high school against my will, and I never participated in any of the things that I could have taken advantage of, sports or anything like that. So high school was difficult, but I did graduate, and I graduated on the high side, you might say.
Yeah.
So, but it was a chore. I did it as an obligation rather than something you would have. My sisters all went to other schools, and they just loved school, and all of my friends were just digging on the school they went to, but I was stuck at this reformatory, I want to say. But
Yeah.
yeah, so I held a resentment for many years about that, but I'm glad Mom was looking out for me. She wanted to get that credit on the paper, so to speak, that said this boy can go places if he applies himself. But
Yeah.
I never did.
So when you did you have any do any drinking in high school or have any issues that you look back on? You
No,
know.
no, Joe. Really, I mean, just the normal stuff at home with the
Yeah.
family. Drinking during maybe a meal, maybe having a glass, and that wasn't every day. When Mom served certain meals, she'd have the what we used to call the Italian red wine on the table,
Yeah.
we would enjoy. She would enjoy that more than we did, but I'd participate in it. I could take it or leave it, and
Yeah.
it wasn't even something that was looked down upon. I'd much rather have a Pepsi or something, and she knew that, but we weren't allowed to drink a lot of soda and stuff like that as kids.
Yeah.
But
So
we did.
after you graduated from Lane Tech, then you went to college, and is that what you
Well,
did?
I thought so, but what happened was um, I went to junior college for a while to see if I would like school, okay, to see if I would like college. And the other reason was the tuition for college was high. Very, very, it was unheard of to get a scholarship or a grant or something like that. Even my neighbor buddy uh, he wanted to be a doctor, and he was way, way more. uh, into the books than I was. And I don't remember him getting a grant or any kind of, I mean, it was strictly what your parents could afford as to what school you'd go to. Um, I figured, well, I'm going to go to junior college. My mom and dad said, well, we'll let you stay here, but we can't help you with the, with tuition and the books and this and that. That time, JCs were not free, and you bought your books, and just like you did at regular college, going away. But at least I had room and board at home, and I tried it out for about a year, and then I dropped out because I thought, nah, I had a job too. I had a full-time job. I thought, you know what, having some money in my pocket, it's a nice feeling. I think I'll go to school later, sometime, maybe later, but right now I'm going to work for a while and buy myself a car and get on with my life. Also
Yeah.
had a girlfriend at the time, and I thought, well, I'm going to see how this develops. So I'll be able to have a full-time job and take her out, and we'll do the things that people in their late teens are doing, and we did. We sure.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
When and you were drafted to go into Vietnam, weren't you,
Yeah.
sometime
Well,
during
that's what happened. Shortly after I dropped out of college, and I thought, well, let's go on for a while. That Vietnam War developed really a full swing in 1965. And I was watching the news on TV, and my brother-in-law, the one who married my oldest sister, was in dental school at the time. He was studying to be a dentist, and he was drafted out of college into the Navy. He was still in college, and they gave him an officer's commission and sent him to Vietnam to work on soldiers' teeth, fix their teeth and whatnot. And he
Yeah.
was right in my sister. I mean, it upset our family terribly. But I just thought, wow, if they're taking doctors, people out of school, and the draft was full swing. And it was shortly after I dropped out of college, maybe 2 months later, I got a telegram in the mail. Greetings from Uncle Sam. Report down. Well, first of all, at 18 years old, you had to take a physical. And at that physical, you were told you were 1A or 2F or whatever it was if you had an ailment. But I got classified 1A right at that physical. Well, okay. So then you had to register for the draft. And 2 months after dropping out of school, like a fool, um, I got a telegram from Uncle Sam and said, come on down to the induction center in Chicago. And that was crazy. I mean, I didn't believe. I mean, I'm going to be drafted in the army, Well, then I thought, well, I can do 2 years. They'll see that I have an education, and immediately they'll put me in a position where I can perform, some office duties or something like that.
Right.
Yeah. And I got down in the line there, and we're standing in our skivvies, and they said, "You men are now, we swore the oath to the United States government." And then shortly after that, some guy in a big Smokey the Bear hat came out, and he was in a Marine Corps uniform, and he said, you, every fourth guy. And he goes, fall out. And he goes, you men are going to the United States Marine Corps for 2 years, and you're reporting to wherever it was, San Diego, California tonight for boot camp. I said, holy crap, they drafted those poor souls into the Marine Corps. What a terrible thing, But thank God it wasn't me. That's a sure trip to Vietnam, I thought.
Yeah.
Well, then next guy came out, and this never happened before, by the way. No, the Marine Corps never drafted people for wartime action. And then another guy came out. He was all in white. He was a sailor. He was some kind of a naval officer. I didn't know any of the ranks then. And he said, every fourth guy in that was left. 1, 2, 3, 4. Of course, I didn't go. I said, what the heck's going on here? Maybe, who knows what's going to happen? But he said, you guys fall out. He goes, you're going to Great Lakes Training Center right up the road here in Illinois and Chicago, north of Chicago. You're going to do 2 years in the United States Navy as draftees. I said, wow. Hey, can I go? I said, get back in line. And I said, and then this other guy came out and he was in the Army. I could tell. He said, and the rest of you sorry blankers, you guys are reporting to Fort Polk, Louisiana for boot camp. And I said, oh no, I guess I'm just going to make the best of this. So went down to Fort Polk, Louisiana, did some basic training, and then from there I got orders to go to Vietnam. Kind of knew it was going to happen. It developed. I could see it happening. The writing was on the wall. They trained me for all the combat training they could down in Tigerland, which was a village set up to, train you for Vietnam duty. So I knew it was happening. And then I got my orders. There were many places to go in Vietnam. And I thought, well, maybe there's an outside chance I'll still get some kind of a unit in the Army, that'll, it won't be in such harm's way. And as luck would have it, I went to the worst, the worst company you could go to in Vietnam. They had just been on the news. They lost a terrible battle in Vietnam, and they had to replace their KIAs, the First Air Cavalry Division. And when I was told to go home, get my affairs in order, get everything I had in order, tell your mom and dad that I was property of the United States Army now, and that I would do my very best to, protect and defend the country and come home safely to them.
Oh, wow.
And I did it, and I went to Vietnam, and it was, I guess I really don't know. I don't think this is a conversation that we want to talk about this right now, but you might have some questions about it. I'll be glad to answer it for you, but I don't really want to expound upon too much of it. But I will answer some direct questions like pertaining to alcoholism there and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, was that part of it, John? When I can only imagine what you went through there. And but was drinking and drugs kind of pretty prevalent there?
Yeah, the drugs were real prevalent, but I never partook in them. I mean, there was a lot of, from what I understand, there was a lot of high grade drugs there available to anybody that was experienced in using them. I had no experience with drugs. I never smoked any weed or anything like that while I was in Vietnam. But I did. Mom would send me a bottle of whatever they could afford, a Calvert's or some bottled liquor. I would get a care package through the mail that they actually brought out to the field when we had a few days to stand down.
Yeah.
When I say stand down, I mean we were on the move every single day. Ride a chopper in the morning, get dropped off, make contact if we could, and then at night we would chow. If we were going to be there more than 2 or 3 days in the same LZ landing zone, we could receive our mail. And at that time, you could get a package sent. And if somebody sent a package to you, you could get it. And Mom would send a bottle of whatever. Sometimes I'd get a half a pint or whatever, and she thought it would, help me calm my nerves because she knew where I was at. There was no way to censor that.
Right.
But I started drinking over there, but I don't ever recall being drunk or high. Ever. I mean, I just drank to, the old thing, calm the nerves, but it did sort of make me feel like, there's hope that if I get through this thing, 9 more months and I'll be out of here, and someday I'll be a short timer and something like that. So, yeah, I got to see the Bob Hope show while I was over there.
Wow.
That was a fun experience, but other than that, it was a real downer. So
yeah. Oh, I can
Yeah,
only imagine, John.
yeah. Well, that's what we did. That's what a lot of people. I mean, that's what we had to do. You didn't have much of a choice to
Yeah.
respond otherwise. Hmm. Yeah,
So you thank God you survived that, and you came home, and was your when did your drinking start escalating, John? When did you?
yeah. After I got home, actually, I had I had 6 more. Well, you did the requirement for combat was 1 full year. Didn't mean that your time in the army was finished. If you spent 1 full year in a combat zone without getting killed or wounded, and you still had an obligation to the army for 2 years, they would take you out of the combat zone and send you anywhere you wanted to go that they had a post. So I
Okay.
did a whole year without getting killed, and they said, "Where do you want to go?" And I made sergeant in 1 year, which was crazy. So they said, "Where do you want to go, Sergeant Winnick?" And I said, "California. I want to
Oh
go to
wow.
California." They said, "What part of California?" I said, "Wherever the water and the sun is." I said, "That's where I want to go." And they said, "Okay, we got a duty station in Fort Ord, California, which is right on the Monterey, smack dab on the Monterey Peninsula, about 90 miles south of San Francisco." And I had such choice duty that I would only work 2 days a week, and the rest of the time I was free. And I had
Yeah.
a brand new car when I got home. Of course, you couldn't draw any money when you were in combat, so maybe $20 or $50 a month was your pay, that you could draw while in Vietnam. So I had all this money stashed up, and I sent it home, and I said, "Mom, take care of it. Buy, you know, do whatever you want with it. I can't. They won't let me have this money." So she saved all this money, my pay, my combat pay, and the whole thing. And when I got home, she said, "Here's some money for you that we saved for you." And I had this money, and I put a down payment on a brand new 1968 Pontiac Le Mans. Yeah, that's what it was. It was beautiful though, two
Huh.
door. Oh, I remember it. My first new car. And anyway, I drove it out to California to my duty station when I got back. Came home for a quick visit, and then said, "I still got it. I still got 6 months to go, Mom and Dad." I said, "But I'm going to California." They said, "Have fun." And I went to California and just partied my brains out. It's there that I got introduced to some hard drugs too.
Yeah.
I tried, and it was crazy. I mean, I can't believe what that stuff does to you. But I still drank. I still drank too. So after surviving that, I came home from Vietnam and thought, it's all okay. I'm gonna be all right. I finished my obligation, and you know what? I thought, this is why I think I'm just going to live free. And after going through that experience, if that didn't kill me, nothing will kill me. I am friggin' bulletproof.
Yeah.
And I copped an attitude. But what I brought home with me that I didn't know, and it was not even, no one knew what it was. They didn't know how to describe it, but I had it big time, was PTSD. You didn't talk about that stuff. You didn't talk
Right.
about the because it was very unpopular to talk about stuff. And there was no VA to counsel you, and there was nothing. We had no resources, and you just didn't talk about that stuff. People would lock you up. But I had such terrible nightmares and terrible social experiences that I knew there was something wrong with me, and only alcohol could cure it. Only
Mm.
alcohol or drugs could cure it. And I knew it. I said, I got some relief from this crazy, the dreams and the whatnot. and I knew how to fix it, but I just couldn't tell anybody how I was fixing it. That's all.
Yeah. It was
Yeah,
like self-medicating.
yeah. There you go. There you go. So, but it was all okay. You see, this is what you do. You know, you man up. You just take care of your own problems, and you don't talk about it. I didn't think it
Yeah.
was in anybody else's life but mine. In the meantime, that little sweetheart that I had when I went over to Vietnam from high school days waited for me to come home, and and we got married. Uh, and in 1969, I got married, and we had the two boys that I have right now, my two sons, a couple of years apart.
Yeah.
And you know, I thought, well, this is gonna work. You know, got myself a job with Ma Bell, and you know what? That was such a great job, Joe. I got to tell you about it.
Yeah.
They trained me. They liked me. They just, you know, and I had all the free time in the world. As a matter of fact, all my coworkers, we were outside plant guys. We would stop at the bars at lunchtime, have a sandwich, have a couple of beers, get back in our trucks, get back to work, and climb these poles, and you know, just have a ball, you know. And then
Yeah.
maybe after work we'd stop too, and it wasn't just Fridays; it was all the days during the week. You know, somebody would
Yeah.
stop, but it was like a big club, and we had a softball team. We played ball together. We socialized together with families and wives, and drinking was just part of the deal, man. It was
Yeah.
part of the deal. I mean, your boss kind of expected it. I mean, I remember on St. Patty's Day in Chicago, anybody who's been there, by the way, this job and everything returned back to Chicago. St. Patty's Day in Chicago was the closest thing to Mardi Gras. Perfectly acceptable to be drinking on the job during the day, having a few. All the advertisers where I worked at some of my accounts, J. Walter Thompson, some of the big advertising firms all had parties going on where they had you know, the back office, so to speak. There were bottles back there. It was great. It was just great, you know.
Sure.
So I looked forward to it, and drinking was a lot of fun back then. And then somewhere along the line, Joe, I don't know when, but I started to get to a point where I couldn't, so to speak, stop thinking about it. Obsession came in there
Right.
where I started buying package liquor to take home on paydays, you know, with me. And it wasn't enough just to buy a little bottle and maybe a 6-pack of beer. I'd load up for the whole week, you know, so to speak,
Right.
bottles and cases of beer. And I still have plenty to, not only am I drinking at work, but when I come home from work, you know, I'm participating, I'm partaking again. So yeah, it was starting to get like a obsession with me. Yeah,
Was
yeah.
there some time that you kind of said, maybe it started having you had started having some consequences, in your
Yeah.
relationships or anything like that?
Well, yeah, yes, I did. The relationships were part of a big part of it, having consequences. But even physically, I was starting to show signs of you know, this is getting me down. That's
Yeah.
how it started. There were arguments at home where my wife would say, you know, you're working a lot of hours. I know that. She said, but you're not really working. You're drinking with the guys. She
Yeah.
said, you know, that's dishonest. For one, the company's going to catch you. You're going to be out of a job. When I said, no, no, no. You know, I had excuses for everybody does it. You know, um, um, the, the dishonesty was there, and the consequences were my moral standards were just down the tubes. I justified that. Well, the kind of money that they pay me, you know, everybody, you'd do the
Yeah.
same, you know, cheat on your hours and stuff like that. So I learned how to be, you know, pretty crafty at doing the job and getting good results and still doing what I wanted to do down there with going out and having some beers. I'd work overtime and finish my job in 20 minutes and take an hour and a half on the job and sit in the tavern and watch the ball game for an hour and then call in for another job. And yeah, I'd come home and then my wife would be, supper, you're not eating good. So I had some medical issues. I was starting to flounder and just not feel good, indigestion, constant indigestion.
Yeah.
So went to my doctor, the family doctor, Dr. Simons. He took one look at me and he got my blood pressure. He said, "Your blood pressure is off the charts." He goes, "For a young man like you, shouldn't be there. You're looking, like something's going on with you. You're starting to get you're not looking good." And he said, "Your wife is telling me you're drinking all the time. Whenever she sees you, you got a drink in your hand." And I said, "Well, Doc, you would too if you had I got two sons to raise." And he goes, "No, no,
Yeah.
no." He goes, "Normal people don't drink like that, John. Not
Yeah.
every day like this." And he's tried to describe me. He goes, "Why don't you quit for a while and see how you feel?" And that's when I knew there was an indication. When he said, "Why don't you quit for a while?" I didn't want to tell him, "I don't think I can. This is what I need. I like it and it feels good. And I feel it peps me up and it gives me just, the courage I need. And it gives me it's a social lubricant." And I
Sure.
discovered all the positives and never looked at any of the negatives. So I didn't want to follow his suggestion. And I said, "We'll see you around, Doc. I'll be back." He just shook his head, told my wife, "I don't see any help for him unless he quits for a while."
Yeah.
And that started the fuse, and she never let up about it. It's always, so it wasn't safe to go home and drink at home too much as I wanted to anyway. Yeah, yeah,
So
jokes.
what was did you have a turning point, John, where, you know, you thought, man, I really do need to seek help? I know that was probably that doctor laid
Yeah,
maybe some groundwork, but
yeah. Well, um, I one time there was a fellow I worked with who said that he had a family member. I remember he was telling me, he goes, "The poor guy can't drink." He goes, "He's allergic to it." I said, "What do you mean?" Joe, nobody in the family, if they were in AA, they kept it a secret in my family. I never
yeah,
even heard of it. And I'll be honest with you, I've not read a lot of books and articles over time that talked about Alcoholics Anonymous or people recovering. The only person I ever knew who was a celebrity status who was an alcoholic was W.C. Fields, and people like, I understand, but I said, "Look at that guy. It's obvious, he's, he's crazy. I mean, that guy really needs help." But when I asked this friend of mine I work with, said, "You know, that man can never drink alcohol again, but he's perfectly okay today." And I said, "What? You mean he can't drink because he doesn't want to drink?" And he goes, "Yeah, he doesn't want to drink because he knows if he takes one drink of alcohol, he'll be right back to where he started." I said, "Oh, that poor soul, man." And he goes, he said, "I heard that it sneaks up on you when it starts when you're, progressive." And I said, "Man, that's scary shit."
yeah,
So, um, the warnings were there. I was starting to get the information to collect and say, maybe I need to slow down here. Maybe I need to prolong because I'm only in my 30s and I can't picture going the rest of my life, um,
yeah.
being without a drink here. So maybe these guys are talking about something that I should heed here. Yeah. So did I ever seek help? No, no, I never. After that, I never sought any help with it or asked any questions. I just went on my merry way and thought, okay, maybe I'll try to take it down a notch here. Especially when I'm around people who have noticed that I'm drinking.
Yeah.
I didn't realize the whole world knew I was drinking.
Yeah.
I
Those
just
dang people that notice us, John.
yeah, I know, and there's a lot of them too. I thought I was sure hiding it, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
um, so what was the turning point, or what was that jumping off point when you you you
Well,
really?
it got to a point. Yeah, it eventually got. Well, yeah, I got intervened at work. They came to me and said, um, you've got alcohol on your breath. You come in here almost every day. Uh, None of our customers have called into you, but we've noticed it. We've
Yeah.
noticed it a lot with you. And if it gets to a point where you get strike one on the record, meaning you miss some time from work or you get a customer that calls on you. Remember, it was a very strong union and you couldn't just shoot innuendos at an employee. You had to have concrete proof, strike one, two, and three. And I
Yeah.
never missed work, Joe. I never missed work. I'd go to work with the worst hangovers in the world, but I went because I knew at the end of the day I could start drinking again. Sometimes even before the end of the day. So and that could pull me through the hangover, drinking again. And they'd say, "We notice you're shaking and you're and stuff like that. You've got all the ear markings of alcohol problems, and you are being watched," they told me. So
Okay.
just you better know this is a warning. We're going to start looking at your work. We're going to start following up on you. And if you don't straighten up your act, we're going to recommend that you take a leave of absence, which they would give you that leave of absence at Ma Bell if you wanted to go to the farm, so to speak. They had a
Yeah.
drum. Yeah. And I said, okay, I considered that a threat. I said, you obviously don't appreciate my services. Obviously don't appreciate the excellence here that I provide. But that said to me that the drinking game was going to have to change. I was going to have to change the environment here, not change me, but change the environment. Everything else has got to change so I can continue. So, for some odd reason, I had the great idea to do what we call in Alcoholics Anonymous a geographic.
Yep.
Well, you know what? Chicago's getting pretty cold in the winter these days. And I sure liked the West when I was living out west there in California, but I don't have anything to go to. I just can't quit and go out there, and I got to have something lined up. And I don't know how this kind of stuff happens, but it happened. I opened up the Sunday paper, the Chicago Sun-Times, and there was a little bitty ad somebody put in: telephone technician needed in Tucson, Arizona. Apply at this number. Honest to God. I said, oh, let me give this a call here. Well, I called, and the rest is history. This guy
Yeah.
offered me to come up there, and he was a anyway, had a little telephone company out there in the desert. He had a few employees with him, and he thought, wow, I'm going to get a high dollar tech from Chicago out here, and he'll fill the bill. And I thought, this is a great area as long as it's not a place that they serve alcohol. I knew that. I knew I could get drunk there, so I went out there and tried to start a new life with my bride and the two boys, and I thought, you know what, this is going to help me. I've heard people go to the desert to recuperate and get healthy again. And I thought, yeah, this might be a fresh start for me. And I went out there, and within 2 weeks, I was right back into my cups. I had found all the places to drink at, and I found what I could get away with and what I couldn't. I had a good job, not a high paying job. And okay, this is going to work. And I got my kids out there now and my family, and my wife hated it. She hated the fact that now she was isolated from her family, knew nobody, no family or friends, was away from all of her support. My kids loved it. My boys, they were at the age
Yeah.
of growing out there, was fun. We'd climb the mountains and we'd look for rattlesnakes and we'd do all the cool stuff boys like to do. And I could drink as much as I wanted to, I thought, with impunity.
Yeah.
But within 2 weeks, I was in bars, in the barrio, so to speak. That's the Mexican hood, you might
Yeah.
say. There's some good old bars down there, too. And I got my teeth rearranged. They got knocked out. I got in a fight down there. And
Yeah.
I was a real mess, Joe. I was a real mess. So, and it was alcohol related, of course. And my wife said, she lasted out there 6 months. And she said, I'm going to go back to Chicago and visit mom and the family. And she packed up her bags, took my sons with her, went back to Chicago. And long story short, she filed for a divorce, and because she knew it was hopeless.
Yeah.
She confronted me with quitting drinking. It's me or the bottle, so to speak. And I said, no, I'm not ready to quit. Maybe down the road, maybe when I'm 50 or something, maybe when I'm 40, but not
Yeah.
now. I said,
Yeah.
it's too much fun. And it wasn't fun at all. And she went back to Chicago. I said, she'll be back. She'll be back. She never came back.
Yeah.
And we split, divorced. And that's all I needed. Now I had no controls on me at all out there in Arizona, just doing as I wanted to do, drinking and carousing. And I met my second wife. Uh, I met her at a social event. We were going to go tubing with a bunch of other friends. That's where you blow up. I'm sure it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody gets drunk. It's an excuse to get drunk in an afternoon, float down the river.
Sure.
This girl was 8 o'clock in the morning. She had a bottle of wine, a Boone's Farm wine. At 8 o'clock in the morning, she's chugging on wine. That's the girl for me. I love her. she was nursing the hangover. She was with this guy. Anyway, long story short, that was she was out of her element, so to speak.
Yeah.
I married her a few years later, and she stayed with me until my days. Through sobriety, she was a miraculous woman. She was a miracle in my life. I mean, she
Yeah.
brought me from the gates of hell and got me into AA, where I recovered. But that didn't happen until 1987, as you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that
And
wasn't
her name. And what was her name, John?
Barbara.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you might have met Barbara.
I did.
You might.
I just I never I liked the Boone's Farm. We can call her, could have called her Boone's Farm Barbara. That
Yeah, I
was
like that. I like that, Joe. Boone's Farm
but I,
Barbara. Yeah, yeah.
I know how much you loved her, and I know how
Oh,
much she meant
yeah,
to you.
yeah. She was my soulmate. Let me tell you, we went through the good and actually the bad and the good together. I'm glad the downside of our relationship was in the early years.
Yeah.
It got better as I got sober, as she told me it would. She told me it would, and everyone told me it would. That there was life after alcohol, but
Yeah.
I guess it takes what it takes.
It does, and you, I know you got 12 stepped, as we call it, where some guys came to help you. Can you talk about a little bit when you got serious about sobriety?
Yeah. Well, I was married to Barb. We were married for a few years. She would cry. She was tired of watching me kill myself, as she put it, and she would plead with me to please get help. I had tried in 1981 I made an attempt to come to AA, and as I say, I made a few cameo appearances. I even admitted I even went into treatment for 30 days, and I learned some wonderful, from a lot of wonderful counselors and doctors were there, and they gave me a whole bunch of reasons why not to drink, why I should not drink, and why, what will happen, what the outcome will be. And they gave me the cure. The solution was to get into AA, of course. And again, I just don't think I was ready to make that commitment. I was so afraid of commitments. Uh, you know, I just, I guess after being in the army and things like that, where, you don't want to join anything. You don't want to step
Yeah.
up and volunteer because you'll wind up doing something that's, I considered not drinking life threatening. That's how bad it was.
Right.
I would die from not drinking. But anyway, yeah, so I made that, what they call that moment of clarity, so to speak, happened to me in 1987. Um, I've been, I had bottles hidden all over because I didn't want to hurt Barbara's feelings. It wasn't that I was afraid of her. I just didn't want to hurt her feelings when she saw me outwardly drinking so much, all weekend long, all day long, all night. And we had a home there in the foothills in Tucson. I had a swimming pool there, built-in pool, and I
Yeah.
was out there, and I'd go out in the morning with a bottle of vodka, but I would season it with either some orange juice or some other colored thing, so that she tried to make it appear like I was just drinking juice. And she knew damn well I wasn't. She was watching me through the kitchen window, and and she saw me out there staggering around with this long pole in my head. Later on, she went to tell me, said, "You look like a drunken gondolier." She said, "You
Mm.
just staggering around, making it look like you were cleaning the pool, and I knew you were so drunk you couldn't even stand up." And and then the next thing you know, she said, "You're flat on your back, laying there at the pool." And she said, "I ran out to see if you were all right." And she said, "You were out, and then you woke up and you told me, John or Barbara, go in the house. Those guys back in 1981 gave me a book, a big book. I didn't throw it away. I said, it's in there. In that book is the number for AA. I want you to call it."
Yeah.
She said, "Well, I will." She said, "I will do that for you. Just stay here." She said, "I'll call it and tell them that you need some help." And she went and picked up our telephone, which was a wall phone that was laying on the floor because I had ripped it off the wall after talking
Yeah.
to my ex-wife about child support. And see, I was at this time with Barbara, our life was like this. We had this home that was like 5 months in arrears. The mortgage company was getting real mad at me. They wanted their money. My
Yeah.
job was already was at going to hell. I was getting a lot of warnings at work, and IRS, the state revenue service in Tennessee, was after me for money, and they said that they would put a brick on my next check if I didn't pay them their money. So I was hurting, and
Yeah.
so anyway, she picked up our phone, called AA. They started talking to her, and yeah, I could see her head nod. And she said, "Here, I'll put him on the phone. You talk to him. I can't convince him to do that." I remember her saying that. "No,
Yeah.
I can't convince. Here, you talk to him." And they put me on the phone, and this guy was, "Hello, my name's Andrew." He goes, "Understand you want to get sober, huh?" And I said, "Yep, I sure do." He goes, "Well, here's what it is." It was maybe one in the afternoon. He said, 5:30, there's a meeting at the AA Central Office, 840 North Campbell. He said, be there. I said, no, Andy, you don't understand. You don't understand. I am drunk, bad shit faced drunk, and I
Yeah.
can't do your meeting. And I said, and I don't feel good. And he goes, and I said, you guys do not want to see somebody get sick and drunk at your meeting. And he goes, John, you are exactly what we want to see. Get down here. He goes, let me get Barbara back on the phone. Da 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 da. Long story short, Barbara says, I'm driving you down there. I'm taking you down there. I said, oh no, what did I do? And, and I had a few more drinks and I went to the meeting. And I don't remember anything about the meeting, but that guy, Andrew, who took that 12-step call was there at the meeting. And
Yeah.
another guy was there, and a bunch of other guys and gals were there. And I just couldn't wait for this meeting to get over because I was sick. And I said, I'll see you guys next time. See you around. Thanks for the help. Oh no. We're taking you home. Barbara's not coming down here to pick you up. Oh, okay. So I gave him my address. I said, this is bad news. I got to stop at the liquor store. You guys, I need a drink. And they said, no. We've got something for you. They stopped. They got some orange juice, some honey, and they came home with me. And I started immediately. I laid down on the couch and they put a bucket in front of me and I was heaving in that for a while. And they gave me large quantities of orange juice and honey, and that induced even more vomiting. And anyway, the shake stopped, and it was getting around closing time for the liquor stores. I could see that they close at 12 o'clock over there, not 2 inch in Tucson. And I said, okay, guys, I'll see you. And they said, here's the meetings we go to. Here's this and that. We're staying with you till the liquor stores close. Hope to see you tomorrow at this meeting. And they circled it and put their phone numbers in there. And that's how it started. And,
Wow.
by the grace of God, I went to the next meeting the next day and saw those two guys in them. And they looked a lot cleaner and a lot brighter. And everything wasn't as green to me and hazy. And I survived that first time I've ever survived a hangover without taking a drink in a long, long time. I don't ever believe
Yeah.
I ever survived a hangover without drinking my way through it. But I said, these guys know what the secret is: orange juice and honey. I got to remember that. Yeah. So anyway, I followed these guys. I just went to these places where they went to, and they went to all these churches and things like that, and met with other alcoholics. And he just told me to sit down, and if they called on me, then I could make answer a few, what I thought was an interrogation, but it
Yeah.
was just wanting to see who I was, and I got to know him, and God, it was a change. I mean, I said, what are you guys? You're speaking another language. This is not like the stuff I saw in the treatment centers. You're AA? And they said, yes, this is AA. He said, they showed you the cleaned up side of an alcoholic in there. You never
Yeah.
got to see, you never got to see what we see. And we went to the what we called the LARC, the local area recovery center. We had meetings over there, and I would go with them, and I would just sit and I'd say, I'm John. I've been sober a week, and I go with these guys, and they're people, and that's what we did. We had our meeting at the whole home group just about went there, and
Wow.
it was the South Side group, and they met on the North Side. What a whole thing was upside down. It was like Bizarro World, I'll tell you. Anyway, that's how it started. And
Yeah.
I can tell you, Joe, my first year in recovery was something that I could not have ever predicted. I mean, to think that I would ask another man to give me help, sponsor me. I never asked for help. I
Yeah.
never. But the other fella, Andrew answered the phone. The other fella's name was Mike the plumber. And he'd been sober 1 year, God, forever,
Yeah.
He said, and this is what he does. He goes, I go on these 12-step calls so I never forget. I keep it green. I never forget where I came from. You should never, you want to stay sober, you'll never forget. He'd give me the whole lecture. And I go, okay, Mike, I'd say, how'd you stay sober? And he told me what he did. And, I said, well, maybe I should ask. I'm hearing all this stuff at these meetings about asking someone to be your sponsor and how important that is.
Yeah.
I mean, really important for staying sober. That's what they told me.
Can you explain to just what is a sponsor, John, according to John? What would be?
Well, according to John, a sponsor is, as my sponsor said, I'm not your driver, I'm not your banker, I'm not your marriage counselor, but I'm here to help you work the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous and to keep you out of making decisions that are eventually going to lead you back to drinking. I'm going to caution you, and I'm going to tell you flat out, as a sponsor, I'm going to tell you, if you continue to do this, you will get drunk. And maybe the next time you want to get sober, I'll extend my help for you. So a sponsor is someone who's going to show you how he or she worked the steps of the program and how he or she managed to get through the one day at a time without taking a drink. And then some of it, some very intimate experiences. My sponsor would say, I don't want to tell you how to handle your wife. She should go to Al-Anon, though. She should go, a strong suggestion, because you can't help her, even if you stay sober. And he was a confidant, and I think I try to model that when I sponsor somebody. I just try to say, you can talk to me about this stuff. If you think I'm have any experience with it, I will share it with you, and I will tell you some of the do's and don'ts, and it's up to you then. So I don't think some of the lines are not hard and fast anymore. I mean, God, I'm willing to help somebody out if they need if they're short on a little change every now and then, or if they can't do something that I really think would benefit them.
Sure.
We all, I think we should do that. And but to say I'm not a marriage counselor, I'm not a banker, I'm not a driver, is truly not, that's not 100%. Okay. But I say that because we want people to try to start helping themselves as soon as they can to get a job, as soon as they can to lift themselves up, to show that they've got some skin in the game, so to speak.
Yeah.
And that's what I think a sponsor has to do, is show you what you need to do and how you need to participate.
That's well said, John.
And not soft pedal it and not back. Well, I don't know. That's an opinion, Joe. That's an opinion. But you asked.
It's a suggestion.
Strong suggestion.
So one of my favorite things you always remind me of is that alcohol beats us into a state of reasonableness, and so once that happened and you got sober, and your life, how did your life start changing, John? Like, what are some of the things you noticed?
I noticed, and it wasn't a whole lot. I mean, I had a part in it, but not 100%. When Mike told me, he said, your wife needs to go to Al-Anon. I'm going to tell you, Joe, I've never been to an Al-Anon meeting in my life. I hope to go to one soon.
Yeah.
But Barbara went to Al-Anon for just a short period of time. She wasn't a long, but in those 6 months or whatever she was there, she found camaraderie and similarities, just like the alcoholic finds when he comes to AA. So my life with her and my relationship got strong. We were both focused on the same thing, keeping me sober,
Yeah.
I mean, really sober, not just away from alcohol, but trying to do the right things and learning how to do these things. So that part of my life got immediately better. Re, the reasonableness, when I thought, nah, that guy could never get sober. I could never do this. I can never sponsor anybody, or you know what? I can't go to. I can't do this stuff in AA. I can't speak at a meeting. You know, at first you're told never to say no to AA, and then after a while you find out you've got enough confidence in yourself and with the program of Alcoholics Anonymous to talk about it freely and to encourage others strictly by relating your own personal experience. Come in here, unreasonable, and now here's a man that's willing to listen to reason.
Yeah.
And with all phases of life, I never, want to shut the door on somebody's from a different background than I am, a different cultural belief, a different. When it comes to this disease, everybody's a welcome participant. And that's what I learned here. We don't, I don't want to ever close my mind off to saying, oh, that he's not the right type of alcoholic. The only thing that the big book has got it so crystal clear. The only thing that matters is a desire to quit drinking. Oh, how I love that. I love that because it includes anybody that's willing to say, this is what I want to do. Then we hook you. The hook is set. And we just kind of tell you what you have to do. My life immediately, the first year got better in a lot of ways, climbed health-wise. I think my sponsor would say, the first thing you do in Alcoholics Anonymous is get new teeth. And that's one of the first things I did. I told you I had my teeth knocked out in South Tooth. Well, they were all black, and I didn't look too good at the time. I was, at least I got some color back to my face, and I went and got some new teeth. How about that? So
that's pretty cool.
That was one of the big highlights of my first year of sobriety.
Yeah.
And that was heard, but no major changes in the first year. I don't know if they still say that, but yeah.
That's true.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
One thing though,
yeah.
My sponsor, he had opinions just like I do. And the first 30 days I was sober, I told him, I said, Mike, Barbara and I are going to celebrate. We're going to celebrate I forgot how many years of marriage it was. I said, we're going to Hawaii for a week or 2 weeks, I forgot, whatever it was. He goes, you can't go to Hawaii. I said, what do you mean? I said, I've already paid for it. You can't go to Hawaii. He said, you will get so drunk and you'll never come back. And I said, oh, really? And my wife, he talked, my wife was there when he told me that. And she goes, I don't like what he said. And she goes, the people in Al-Anon don't tell me that. I said, well, I got to listen to him, Barb. And she said, and it caused a big rip. But you know what? In Alcoholics Anonymous, we rule sometimes by consensus. If you've noticed, we talk to one another about our people we work with and all of that. I may say something to somebody I sponsor and find out later, it's not always 100%.
Yeah.
And by talking, I guess Mike, my sponsor, went and talked to my grand sponsor about this, and they said, you know what? At the time, we didn't have directories. Online stuff, but he handed me a book, and he said, "Here's the meetings in Hawaii. Here's your islands. Here's where the meetings are." And he said, "I'm going to print this out for you. I'll copy it on the copy machine because you can't take the book."
Yeah.
And gave me the sheets where all the meetings were at. And do you know? The first meeting I went to in Hawaii, they told me how to find it. It was called the 12 Coconuts. And it was in the park there, Kapiolani Park. And I said, where's the building? It's a park. It's a big park. Where's where's all the people? Where are they going to be? And the guy on the phone said, when I called for directions, he goes, it's in the park, man. I go, that's not good enough. I'll never find you. That's a big park. He goes, look for the 12 coconuts. Joey, this park is full of coconut trees.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm walking around. I'm walking towards the Diamond Head there. And sure enough, in the park straight ahead of me, I looked and there's these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 12 coconut trees, all in like a big circle. I said, where's the building? No, I don't see it. I looked down. I followed coconut trees down. There's mats set up with a bunch of people sitting under the trees. That's it. They're there. I see the cigarettes. So anyway, I attended the 12 coconuts meeting for the whole time I was in Hawaii. It was great. I loved it.
Wow. That's what a wonderful story, John. And what a wonderful recovery story you've shared. And what suggestions would you give to someone who is currently struggling with alcohol or drugs, John?
Currently, right now?
Yeah,
currently. You gotta come. You gotta be part of. You cannot do this thing alone. That's the one thing. You can't fix yourself alone. You can't. There's no pill. There's no therapy. You gotta come to reality, and you need people to help you.
Yeah.
I think that's the one thing I gotta emphasize. I have some people I work with, and they go, it's my wife and the family, and I need to be with her. And you know how hard it is to tell someone you got to leave your baby at home, your wife at home, this and that, and you got to get down here more than once a week.
Yeah.
More than once a week. Maybe it works, and again, there's going to be people out there that hear this and say, no. There's people who got sober with the big book alone, but it's been my experience that you just can't get sober without face-to-face, close and frequent contact with other alcoholics. That is the right there.
Yep. Yeah. Well said, John. Like, I can't let you go without you taking on the rapid fire questions.
Let's hear it.
Are you ready, sir?
All right. Pin.
I don't have my audio for that, so I have to give you my there you go. These are the rapid fire questions. Okay. What is your favorite recovery slogan?
My favorite recovery slogan. I love those stupid slogans on the wall. They're all my favorites, but I really like think, think, think.
There you go. What is your least favorite recovery slogan?
Easy does it.
What do you think is your sobriety superpower?
My home group.
If you could say one thing to your former self, what would it be?
Don't quit before the miracle happens.
What song do you play to lift your spirits when you need a boost?
Peaceful, easy feeling.
If you could grant yourself one wish to help with your recovery, what would it be?
Wow. One wish only? I guess if I could just help the next man who asked me to get him sober, the very next man.
Yeah.
100%.
What step? Oh, sorry, John. What step do you love the most?
I love the 11th step.
What step do you love the least?
Probably the 6th step.
What is your favorite curse word?
Oh man, I don't know if I have a favorite curse word. I use them all.
Fair.
I use them all. I use them all. It's geez, I don't know. I don't know. I don't think I have a favorite, Joe.
That's okay. Fair enough. All of them is a favorite. That's a good one, John.
Yeah.
And if heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Welcome, John.
That'd be pretty cool. Well, I really appreciate you coming on today, John.
Thank you.
And just remind the audience, we have a new episode that's released every Thursday at noon. You can listen to the show on your favorite podcast apps, Amazon Audio, Apple Podcasts, Podbean, Spotify, and others. Just search for The Cup of Joe Show. Don't forget the. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. John, I really appreciate you taking the time to share your story. You are an amazing man and an amazing example of sobriety.
Thank you, Joey V. And look forward to seeing you soon.
Yes, sir.
It's just a laid-back vibe, baby.
We hope you enjoyed today's Experience, Strength, and Hope. We are so grateful you decided to join us. Please share this episode with someone who might need it. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe. Remember, no matter where you are in your recovery journey, you are not alone. Reach up and reach out to someone. Please do not suffer in silence. Until next time, let's take it 1 minute, 1 hour, and 1 day at a time. Thanks for listening to The Cup of Joe Show.